Hi, this is Dr. Geneva. Today, on Ignite to Impact, we hear from Mitchell Levy, the AHA leader, who tells us that good leaders are at the top of the mountain and great leaders are at the bottom, helping other people climb up. And he lets us into the secrets of how to be a great leader.
Welcome to Ignite to Impact, a weekly podcast about next generation leadership and what it takes to make a difference at work, with family, and in your community. Get ready to be inspired as we pull back the curtain and dive into intimate and energetic conversations with achievers and doers who are in the trenches navigating workplace politics and influencing change. Get ready to hear how leaders fail and get back up, learning how to keep it together while traveling in their leadership journey. Our mission: to help you with leadership tips and strategies that you can use to get fast results and help make your business, community, and world a better place. Now, here's your host, Master Leadership Strategist, Dr. Geneva Williams. So, let's ignite to impact.
Welcome to Ignite to Impact. This is Dr. Geneva, and I am just looking so much forward to the conversation we're getting ready to have. And have you heard of the AHA guy? If you haven't, hey, it is my privilege to bring him to you. Now, this AHA guy loves making people think, asking that question or sharing that story that will help you think about the world or a specific pain point in a much different way. He empowers thought leaders to share their genius. Do you know who I'm talking about? I'm talking about Mitchell Levy, who is my guest today. I am so excited. He's got a superpower of extracting the genius from your head in a 2-hour interview. Now, we're not going to have that much time with him, but we can share some of the gems and insights he has. And so he's an accomplished entrepreneur who's created many, many businesses in Silicon Valley, including 4 publishing companies that have published over 800 books. He's a TEDx speaker, an international bestseller with 59 business books, and he's provided strategic counseling to over 100 companies, has advised a ton of CEOs on critical business issues. And we're just delighted that he can spend some quality time with us talking about influence, thought leadership, and just all those things. AHA. Mitchell Levy, welcome.
Dr. Geneva, great to be here. That was a mouthful.
Hey, you got it all. It's all real, right?
Oh, well, there's more, but that was fun. It was good to listen to. But anyhow, glad to be here.
Well, we're delighted. And, I was just, when I realized that we would have a chance to talk to you, I said, oh, wow, now this is the guy that I want to hear from, that I want our listeners, I want to bring to our listeners. So, I want to start off first with, okay, what's the AHA guy, and how'd you get to AHA?
So oftentimes we meander our way through life, and every now and then we have these aha moments or opportunities to grow and learn and do something different. And the last time I actually worked for a company was 1997. I was managing the e-commerce component of some microsystem supply chain. Since then, I've sat on the board of a public company. I've run a ton of 5 different conferences, created 71 courses at university. Blah blah blah. None of that means anything, right? I mean, it's just stuff. It's cool stuff, but it's stuff. What really means something is understanding human nature and understanding that every single day we are presented with gifts, we are presented with opportunities, we are presented with presents, and many people just sort of let those presents pass by. So let me share with you the present of how I became the aha guy. Largely, I've often seen that people don't process information in the same way. So in the old days, for me, it was turning on the light bulb. I would try to turn audiences into an understanding of how to think about the world in a slightly different way. And coming up with the latest and greatest whatever it is and helping people understand that differences. So at one point in time, I had 4 publishing companies. I decided I wanted to go back to consulting. And I went to LinkedIn and I said, hey, give me a title that's different than any other title in the world. So I came up with the title of Thought Leader Architect. And what I do with that title is we in the company and I, we go into corporations, we turn their experts into recognized thought leaders. And the thing is, I thought that title was really cool. And so I sold one of my publishing companies. I got my first client. The client was so excited about the fact that we had publishing down packed, I decided I needed to keep the publishing companies. I did. And over a couple-year period, what happened is, although I thought that title was really cool, and it sounds really cool, my friends didn't actually understand what it meant. And so even friends that had a need inside their company didn't necessarily recommend me. And during that time period, there was one of my friends who every time I'd see him at a conference, he'd go to me and he goes, Mitchell, you're the aha guy. And I go, sure. And then the following year, he goes, Mitchell, you're the aha guy. And then we ended up going for a drink after the event, and and I said, so how do I brand myself better? He goes, well, I've been telling you.
You're the aha guy.
The thing I remember about you, the thing that sticks out, is that you really are the aha guy. And it took me a year after he first gave me the idea to realize that, well, maybe he's right. So I started rebranding myself. Within that first week, I got more referrals than the last 2 years with the title Thought Leader Architect, because people couldn't quite understand what that is, where the aha guy, simple, straightforward. And so what do? I extract the genius out of people's head and help them share it in a way in which their audience resonates with them. And that's what an aha is. I understand what you do. I understand how you can help me with what you do.
And so you've been, you work with so many leaders and so many others to get to that aha moment. Is there a process? How do you get to that? And what is thought leadership?
Let's see, how many questions do we have there?
Oh, probably about 4 or 5. Can you handle it?
Yeah.
I know you can.
I appreciate that. Oh, I absolutely can.
Yes. No.
Let's focus on how do you get there.
Okay.
And so in order to do that, let me just throw a stake in the ground on thought leadership so people could, if you want more information on that, you can. I did a TED Talk, and in the TED Talk, I actually talked about thought leadership. So if you actually go to YouTube and type in Mitchell Levy TED Talk, or if you do being seen and being heard as a thought leader, there's a segment in there where I specifically identify what thought leadership is and how to take advantage of it. And for those, the generation, your audience, who you go after, what the TED Talk primarily focuses on is we are in the largest transformation that humankind has ever gone through. And that's transforming ourselves from the industrial society to the social age. And there's just so many things that you can be doing today to help you get there. So that's what that TED Talk is. It's being seen and being heard as a thought leader. So let's talk about the process. Okay. Here's the interesting thing. There's 2 ways to answer that question. And what I do, so let me give you, let's see, how about I'm going to give you a tool that anyone in your audience can use, and then I'll tell you what we actually do. Okay. So one of the things that I've realized is that my audience, and this is a most recent transformation for me. At the end of 2017, 2 amazing things happened. One is I actually did the TED Talk. The second is I realized that I was going after the wrong audience. Huge aha moment for me. So what happened at the end of 2016, we did a Kickstarter campaign. We is the proverbial we. It was really me, but my team helped us do this. And we hit 250% of goal. And what happened is, out of that goal, out of that Kickstarter, 20 people said that they were going to write their aha book, which it takes 8 hours to write. And from that, we would publish. Well, the whole year went by, and at the end of 2017, what happened out of that 20 is that only 3 out of 20 people spent the 8 hours to write their book. 15%. And that was a wake-up call for me. These are bright people. These are capable people. What it says is 17 people couldn't find 8 hours to do something they paid for that was going to help them in a 12-month period. So that was my aha moment. That was the wake-up call. And I realized that my audience is not the people who are writing themselves, but the people who want us to write for them. So now to answer your question, is how... Are you still there? Sorry.
Yes. Listening. Hanging on to every word.
I know. I was hearing the pin drop, and I go, wait a second. I hope the phone didn't. Thank you for listening so intently. I am so honored.
Yes.
So here's what happens is for us to be successful, for us to be experts, we just need to be seen by the person who we're talking to as the expert. We just have to be recognized that we have knowledge in a particular area. And the quintessential tool for that recognition, even though it's still a commodity item, or it is a commodity item, that tool is a book. Right? And so when you have a book in your hand, all of a sudden people look at you and go, wow, you're an expert. You wrote the book. So what we've done as a company is we've made it really simple and really straightforward. So for those that want to write themselves, we have a 3-step process. And what I want to tell you is about step 1. So if you want to figure out what your core genius is, you don't have to work with our company, but I will send you to our webpage, and you want to pick up probably step 1 and step 2. Step 1 is a Word document. It has 4 questions in it. What's your name? What's your bio? What's the title of your book? So even if you don't plan on writing, it doesn't matter. What is the title of your book? What is the 1-paragraph summary? But let me tell you about question 1. This is the most important question you can answer for yourself. Let me tell you how it reads. So if you're writing a book, how it reads is, who is the reader and what are their expectations? But let me tell you what it really says. Who is your prospect and what are their pain points? Because if you could put your arms around your prospects, who your customers are, and what pain point they have, well, what ultimately happens is, that's where your genius comes out. Because by definition, if you have prospects and they have pain points and you solve those pain points and you get paid for it, that's where your expertise lies. And subsequently, are you ready for this? This is a simple thing. That is the title of your book. The title of your book is the pain point that you solve for your prospect. So here's the cool thing. Imagine you have a book that actually addresses somebody's pain point. So my TED Talk, and I did a book that complements it. It's called Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader. So now, I'm standing in a room of 50 people. I stand up, and normally people introduce themselves, and let's say everyone in the room is an author and a consultant. Okay? If I stand up and I said, hi, I'm Mitchell Levy, I'm an author and consultant, and blah, 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 nobody hears you because everyone else is that. What if I stood up and said, hey, I'm Mitchell Levy. I extract and empower the genius out of experts and thought leaders, and I'm the international bestseller of the book, Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader.
Right. I remember you.
If there's a pain point, if that's a pain point that those in the room have, they're going to go, I need to talk to Mitchell.
Right. So Mitchell, let me see if I can unpack this. Okay. So when we talk about thought leadership, I'm hearing that it really is about expertise, being an expert, being perceived as an expert and knowledgeable. And one of the quickest ways to do that is to be able to identify and understand your audience, your prospects, your clients, and have a real clear finger on what problems they have, and then offer solutions to that. And one of the great ways to offer those solutions is via something written, like a book, so that you're seen as an expert, and then it just continue, and then you're an expert and you're seen as a thought leader.
That sounds about right.
Okay. No, just let me see if I get the formula, because I think that's very powerful. And it has a lot to do also, I think, with influence, because I think I hear you also saying that a true thought leader is an expert, and that person can and does have influence. You know, does that make sense? Is that what you're saying as part of your thinking?
Yeah, and by the way, you said it beautifully. That person is an expert. You didn't say that person is the expert.
Okay.
Right? Because that's what's interesting.
Okay.
And this is my definition. So I have a 2x2. If you watch the TED Talk or go to one of my websites, you'll see I have a 2x2 for thought leadership.
Okay.
Thought leadership is about audience. It's really, the 2x2 is audience by content. And it's to make sure that you're sharing the right amount of content to the right audience.
Okay. All
right? So super quickly, if you have no content, no audience, you're unknown. If you have a large audience, but your content is very narrow, you're an evangelist. Right? And evangelists used to be how businesses used to run. But at this stage, what happens is if somebody is only speaking about one thing, their focus seems so narrow, it seems like they don't have integrity. If they don't have integrity, you can't trust them. If you can't trust them, you don't want to do business with them. So if you have a large amount of content, but very little audience, you are an expert. Now, here's where it's interesting is you don't necessarily have to be a thought leader. You just need to be a recognized expert. So to be a recognized expert or a thought leader, what's important is that you have the right amount of content and you share it with the right audience.
Okay. And that gets you to... So what would you say is the difference, or is there, between a thought leader or expert and an influencer?
It's all terminology.
Okay.
They're almost all... It depends who you talk to.
Okay.
They're almost all interchangeable, depending on how you look at it. So let's be very clear. Let's say the world of clients' view happens to be 10 people. There are 10 people who could possibly be interested in your service. Okay? So if you are known by one of those people, well, you're not really known very well. But let's say all 10 people know you, even though you're not necessarily the people who solve their problems. But if they all know you, you are absolutely a thought leader, assuming you're certainly the recognized expert, and you're the thought leader if you're sharing some of your content, if you're helping people understand who you are and what you do.
Okay.
Now, if you're sharing content that's compelling enough, and it encourages people to take action and do things in a slightly different way, well, you're not only a recognized expert, you're not only a thought leader, but you're also an influencer, because you're providing people tools and approaches and processes in which, i.e., you're influencing them to have thought and to take action. And so it's very small nuances. Typically, the way the world officially looks at it, influencers have a certain number of followers. But if the world's view is 10, if you had 10 followers and the world is 10, you have 100% of the followers following you. The world wouldn't say you're an influencer, but I would, because you're influencing your audience by definition.
Yes. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, Mitchell. And it almost seems like, all in the same space, just some different, as you said, terminology, language. But you've broken. I like how you've broken it down into, it's the thoughts and the action, because I kind of heard them as both. And it's when you get into the action part, that's probably more the influential, when you're causing someone to do something or think a certain way. So Mitchell, tell us, well, first, if you are just joining us, my listeners, I'm having a really great conversation with Mitchell Levy, the AHA leader. And we've been talking about thought leadership and influence and what it means. Mitchell, I wanted to ask you, so, this is some very, heavy stuff. And of course, people can find out more about you. You're all over social media. You've got LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, and you got a speaking site and a consultant site. And, you've written lots of books. You've published books. You've got tons of followers. And you've, this whole AHA thought leadership thing, you've really made a great business and an impact. You've caused others to, aha. Why should we care? I mean, why? No, I really mean this. Why does thought leadership matter? Why should we care?
It's such a huge build-up for such a quick answer. A quick question. So here's the thing.
Yes.
We all have a microphone. We all have a camera. We all have the ability to how about we say this, I don't know, for those parents in the room, if you remember when your kid was like 3 to 5 years old and you walk into a store where, like, I'm thinking about the Kmart, the attention Kmart shoppers, and all of a sudden, the person who has that microphone says, "Oh my God, what a cute kid! You want to say hi?" Well, and as a parent, you flip out because you know what your kid is going to do, and what do? They actually say, "Hey, look at me! I'm cool! Hey! Look at me! Well, it turns out that with this internet proliferation, everyone who wants a microphone, everyone who wants a camera has one. And the thing is, if you say, "Look at me, unless maybe you're a Kardashian, if you say that, people are going to run. And so thought leadership is about quickly and easily allowing people to see the world in a different way. Let me give you an example. And when you look at the books that I write, and what we do in the 2-hour interview is when we're doing a 2-hour interview with an expert, we're actually pulling the genius from the head and we're writing a book for that. So instead of spending 120 hours writing a book, they spend about 2 hours in the interview and maybe another 2 hours reviewing the book, and then we create a book and turn them into an international best-selling author. That's pretty cool stuff.
It is.
What is a book comprised of? For us, a book is comprised of 140 bite-sized quotes from 7 blog posts. To simplify it. And let me give you an example of an AHA. An AHA is a Twitter-sized quote, and the intent is to get people to think about the world in a different way. So if you take a look at my book, Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader, I want to tell you about AHA number 4. What I did, just so you know, is I interviewed 4 other thought leaders from my book. Somebody who runs Thought Leadership for Cisco, as well as I actually have a Swami who I interviewed from my book. And what I want to do is say about Robert Clancy. Robert has 500,000 followers on Facebook. And Robert gave me AHA number 4, which is good thought leaders are at the top of the mountain. Great thought leaders are at the bottom of the mountain, helping others climb up.
Oh,
That's tasty.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
It's like if you remember nothing else from the interview, you're like, oh,
yes.
Mitchell says that I need to help other people climb up the mountain. Okay, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? Is that part of my business processes? Is that who I am? That was a single thought.
Yes.
So imagine a book that has 140 of them.
I get it.
You personally,
oh,
for
yes.
those in the audience, imagine having 140 of your bite-sized morsels.
Yes.
And all you need is one of them to capture the attention of the person who is, in this case, your prospect, and they go, "Oh, I get it. I understand. I know I want to work with you." That's what thought leadership is to be able to articulate in short sound bites. It doesn't mean you can't spend more time like this, a 25-minute interview. But you need to be able to articulate in short sound bites, 7-second sound bites, why somebody wants to pay attention to you. That's what good thought leaders are. And, of course, they help people climb up.
Yes. Now, see, we should have had this part in the beginning of our conversation, but I guess we had to go through so that everyone could say, because I just said, aha. I got that. I mean, I get it. Hey, I will remember. So, wait a minute. So, good leaders are at the top of the mountain. Great leaders are at the bottom helping people move up. See, that was an aha because I get it. I get what you're saying. So, thought leadership and good thought leaders are about, taking their views or having people think about things differently and putting them in short sound bites that can be shared, content that can be shared.
And can I just add to that just
Please.
a little bit?
Yes.
It's not just about their views.
Yes. Right.
Right? So good thought. So, for instance, if I wanted to do something I'm not familiar with,
yes,
and I have nothing, I'm going to go to one of my friends or a family member, and if they've done that recently, I'm going to say, hey, what did you do? What did you learn? How did you grow?
Right.
So if I go to an expert I don't know, so if all of a sudden I want to hire Dr. Geneva, I'm not going to want you to tell me just the stuff that you know. I want you to understand what the industry is, where you play, what you do, and I want you to quote other people as well, because then I see you as somebody who cares about me, because you're, instead of causing me or wanting me to look at the entire universe and understand the whole landscape, you're doing that for me, and you're sharing the best of.
Very
and then I trust
powerful.
you more because you're being authentic and you're showing your integrity. And you know what? There's a little bit of that vulnerability you're doing by sharing potentially your competitor stuff. But what happens is I trust you more because you're now telling me that, hey, if you decide to work with me because you like my personality, I'm going to give you the best of, and here's why you may want to work with my competitors. And in today's world, that's what us as humans, that's what we want.
I get it. Mitchell, I get it. I mean, this has been a really thought-provoking, delightful conversation. And I must admit, I wasn't too sure at the beginning. Now, I'll just be real with you. I mean, I read all your stuff. I've heard about you. I've looked at the TED. I've kind of, wow, yeah. But for me to, after listening to you, having this exchange, this dialogue, I get it. You're saying what you're saying about short sound bites, and it's not about sound bites of things you think is important, but what your audience, your prospects, your customers, what they find important, which addresses their problems. And just being authentic and real, and know, like, and trust. All of that is good thought leadership.
Well, your encouragement me is to take the second half of the conversation and make sure I weave that into the beginning of the conversation.
Yes, please. Yeah, seriously.
I can do that.
Yeah, do that.
I will. I appreciate.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you let the host guide you, But I hear you, and I will do my best to make sure that all my future interviews start off with the aha stuff. But people want to know who you are, right?
They do.
Levy, and so that's how you started the conversation. But
and
I'll throw an aha in there. Maybe.
That's right, and I've learned from you. So see, that's what I think good conversation is about. Good conversation is hearing about each other, but great conversation is being able to understand and relate to each other. There's a difference, right? Mitchell Levy, the aha guy. You really gave me an aha, and I appreciate it. I'm sure my listeners picked up aha, and I want to have you back if you'll agree to come back, and we can just maybe discover some more ahas together. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Oh, my pleasure. I'd love that. And by the way, if you end up having somebody who wants to join us,
yes,
and potentially somebody who's either written or we've written their aha book, we can talk about them and the process and what they learned and how they're growing.
Oh, that sounds great. Fun. Yeah, and then we can, maybe have a longer time to have a conversation and really get into it deep. I just appreciate that, and, I'm going to be saying it all day long, aha, and I'm going to be looking for those aha moments, and thank you for helping me learn something new. Appreciate it, Mitchell. Talk to you again soon.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Talking with you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Ignite to Impact with your host, Dr. Geneva Williams, an award-winning executive, facilitator, and master leadership strategist. Dr. Geneva is passionate about inspiring others to get their own leadership on and empowering the next generation with leadership tools and tips to help make the world a better place. Sign up to download Dr. Geneva's audiobook on leadership. Get the show notes, links, and other resources at drgenevaspeaks.com. That's drgenevaspeaks.com. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast to those in your community via Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Google+, and leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. When you do that, it helps others find the show better. Send your questions or comments to info@drgenevaspeaks.com and use the hashtag Ignite2Impact.